That's why I was afraid your stepkids was going to tie me up and burn me at the stake, because that's what I would have done to my stepmama if I'd had one.
Yeah. You do see the world through the lens of your own experience for sure.
Yep. I was a bad kid. Good Lord. Okay.
You still ain't changed.
David, I'm not a bad adult. Say it, David. Say it.
You just haven't been to jail yet.
David.
You're listening to the Nacho Kids podcast, where we discuss all things step family related. Real stories, real people, real help. Your hosts are the creators of the Nacho Kids Method and the Nacho Kids Academy Step Family Coaching Team, Lori and David Sims.
Welcome to episode 254 of the Nacho Kids podcast.
I am so glad that you are feeling better and you're back.
I'm feeling better.
Not 100%, but better.
Nope. These cough suppressant things do not suppress the cough.
Especially not at night. It has been somewhat challenging for you to get sleep here lately, which makes it somewhat challenging for me to get sleep here lately.
Oh, so now you know how I feel.
In relation to what?
You're snoring.
I don't snore.
Oh, but you do. Okay, so before I get choked up, I want to try something different today. I want to read a question from our Facebook group.
Alrighty.
Okay? And we're going to answer it. But before we do this, I want to explain to people the only way to learn the Nacho Kids method is by joining the Nacho Kids Academy. You aren't going to learn it in this Facebook group, y'all. In fact, if you're in the academy, we suggest that you're not in the Facebook group because you're going to get tons of non-Nacho advice that can actually cause damage to your relationship. I do want to also add that with us responding to this question, if you were in the academy, I would ask you questions about your question before responding.
Mm-hmm.
In this scenario, we are giving you a top level response. Okay. And again, if you were in the academy, I would dig deeper and go deeper, but we're not going to do that because I don't have the person to ask the questions to. All right. Seriously wondering if I'm being overly critical. Please tell me your thoughts. Tonight, stepson 15 was dishing up dessert and took the can of whipped cream and squirted it directly into his mouth. I was completely disgusted. I quietly told DH, which is dear husband, that is disgusting and I can't eat from that can now. DH just smiled and said nothing to stepson. I would have told my own kid the whipped cream belongs to everyone and no one wants to eat their spit. I now wonder how often he's done that before I've used it. I feel frustrated. I know I can buy a can just for me, but that will become a whole thing and DH will think I'm being dramatic. You know, one of my things when we first moved in with the kids, when Jackson and I first moved in with David and his kids, was they didn't wash their hands like I did, or even like David did, or like my son did. So if they put their hands in the bag of bread, the loaf of bread, it freaked me out because I'm thinking of all the places their hands had been, and now those germs were in the loaf of bread. So I bought myself a loaf of bread. I always had my loaf of bread on my shelf. Yes, I had a shelf.
Mm-hmm.
I had a shelf with things that were mine for them not to touch, and also things that were for Jackson's lunch that they were not to touch, or even your lunch, whatever.
Yeah. Well, we even had a shelf for their stuff because they would eat everything.
Right. Which reminds me, the other week, Ethan was here, and he ate my Count Chocula cereal, and I said, Ethan, you ate my Count Chocula cereal? Do you not understand that they only sell that once a year at Halloween? That's like priceless. Well, I didn't know it wasn't on your shelf. I said, dude, I hadn't had to have a shelf since y'all left.
That's funny that he was looking for that, though.
Yeah. Yeah. The shelf. Don't touch stuff on Lori's shelf. Or the shelf, as they would say. But anyway, to this step parent, I understand this is frustrating. I get it 100%. But I have to say, my own son has squirted whipped cream in the dog's mouth. Now, when I'm picturing your stepson squirting this directly into his mouth, I'm picturing it the same way that my son squirted it in the dog's mouth.
Yeah, like a few inches away.
Yeah, or Ethan has done in his mouth.
Right. Yeah, not like he's putting the thing in his mouth. Well, I mean, maybe he did, but I'm with you. I'm picturing it kind of, he's got it up in the air over his mouth and he's squirting it into his mouth.
Right. Well, like Jackson and them, when they'll drink somebody's drink, they waterfall it is what they call it, where they don't put their lips on the bottle itself. They just pour it in their mouth, right?
Right.
But see, now I'm funny about that. I don't share drinks either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Just the funny thing is, when I think back to like college days and that age, it's like you passed everything around. It's like, hey man, give me a drink of that. Hey man, give me some of that. Nobody cared about any of that stuff.
Not me.
And you get older and it's like, you ain't touching it.
No, not me.
Not you.
I was never let's take a drink of this communal drink. No.
Yeah, I don't know that I did either, but of course I wasn't much of a drinker back then.
Yeah, that started when she had kids. But anyway, I'm kidding.
Started when I met
her. So again, for this member, I can't ask you the question. Did he put it in his mouth or was it 2 inches above his mouth? Whatever. Because that does make a difference. It does. Now, should he do that? No. But here's the thing. Your husband smiled. He didn't think it was a big deal. To you, it was a big deal. And yes, you would have told your own kids that. But it ain't your kid. So you could have said, dear husband, on your way home tomorrow, can you stop and grab another thing of whipped cream?
Or just go get it yourself.
Yeah,
I mean, part of me feels like, because she says something like it would turn into this whole thing.
Right, and DH would think she's being dramatic.
Right, okay. So, I mean, I'm like you, have a lot of other questions and such, but if he feels that, I don't think that's dramatic. I think if you came home with a brand new refrigerator just for you to put your stuff in, that might be dramatic.
Right.
But buying yourself a whatever $3, $4, $5 can of whipped cream that, you know, you don't really want to share with other people, I don't think that's dramatic. Now, having said that, if your relationship is not in a good place, then that is going to look dramatic because it is a direct reflection of what his kid did, which he apparently had no problems with. He laughed about it, whatever. The problem is not what the kid did. That's not where your issue is. The issue is in how you and your significant other view the importance of that and what needs to happen next, because that's where the huge disconnect is.
Well, I remember growing up, my dad would get so mad at my sister because she would drink straight out of the 2-liter bottle.
That was the Mad Dog 2020.
No, it was a 2-liter bottle. And he would get so mad at her, which I agreed. Get your nasty mouth off the bottle that everybody's drinking out of, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, David, I agree with you that she can go get her own can of this stuff. And depending on how she approaches it or displays that she got her own can is where it falls into the dramatic or not category.
Right. I mean, you could say that how she addressed it with her DH was dramatic. Now,
Right.
I'm not saying that it was, but he could have took it that way.
Yeah.
And because you and I both, when we were in a bad place, it really wasn't the things that were happening that was causing the biggest issues. It was how everything was being handled that was causing the biggest issues.
Yeah, because pre-nacho, if I would have said that, I would have been like, that's disgusting. I can't eat from that now. And I'd have slammed the cabinet.
Yeah. And I'd have been like, okay, that's dramatic.
Right.
And then, but then it puts you in a position, it puts me in a position to where, well, I know I'm not going to fuss at him now because you just made this big, huge deal out of it. And even if I did say something to him, it's now coming from you through me, which does nothing for your relationship with my kid except make it worse.
Right.
So there's nothing good going to come of it at that point.
So you could go buy your own can, put it in the refrigerator, label it, Sweet Angel Lori's whipped cream. That's not going to stop the kid, though, just so you know. But that's not being dramatic. It's really not.
And you could say, if it comes up, you could say, I prefer not to have my whipped cream out of a can that somebody is putting in their mouth. I don't care whose mouth it is. If this is not an option for me, then what other options do you have that you think is more appropriate?
Right.
And it is all in how you say it.
Right.
It is not what you say. It is how you say it. Your tone and everything that comes after that is where it's important. If you act like a smart butt when you say that, it is not going to turn out well.
Mm-hmm.
You're just saying, look, this is an issue I'm trying to solve. This is how I decided to do it. If there's a better way, I am absolutely open to a discussion. But it's not worth getting into a huge argument over, a fight over, and everything else that will ensue.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
So we're not going to go through the comments or replies that this person received because they're going to be all over the place. Surprise.
You should leave him, girl.
Yeah. How dare him? But the proper Nacho way to handle this scenario without us asking any more questions or knowing any other details would be, don't say anything. Go to the Dollar General down the road because everybody's got one within a 0.5 mile radius of their house and get you a can of whipped cream and put your name on it. Or ask your significant other to when they're coming home from work the next day. Okay? Yes, this could be considered a small thing, but I get it. Look, remember, an empty cereal box sent me into a tailspin.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not making fun of the fact that the whipped cream can freaked her out.
No, the only reason we laugh at it is because the exact same things happened here multiple times, as you pointed out, even to the dogs.
Yes. I just think it's human nature to do it, really. I've done it. You've done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, part of the problem could be, whoever wrote this, not so much what happened. Yes, it's disgusting and all that, but it could very well be that it represents something else to you that's deeper than that.
Yes, it represents she doesn't have control in her own home.
Yeah. So ponder everything.
But here's the thing. She does say she wonders how many times he has done that and she didn't know about it. Probably about 500,000.
It didn't bother you before. Why
Right.
does it bother you? I'm just kidding.
And y'all, look, I'm a germaphobe, right? So I want you to think about something. Every one of you step parents that are listening to this and thinking, yeah, I know. And they touch this and they don't wash their hands after they go into the bathroom and then they touch stuff in the kitchen. I get it. But let me ask you one question. Are you ready? Ready.
I'm ready.
When you go through a drive-thru and you get French fries
Oh, Lord.
and they hand you the packs of ketchup,
Yeah. Or it is now laying on top of your French fries.
right?
That's been touched by 50 different people and probably rats run on top of it and everything else.
Do you sanitize those individual packets of ketchup and then sanitize your hands before putting them on your French fries and touching your French fries with your hands?
No, because her stepson's opening up the pack of ketchup and squirting in his mouth. Yeah. I mean, yeah. If you want to get down to it, I mean, we're exposed to all that stuff all the time. And we don't think anything of it because, hey, it's a drive-through and they're supposed to have ketchup packs and they
You don't think anything about it.
Yeah, you don't. And it's honestly, it's nastier.
It is so nasty, y'all. I remember I actually posted something like this on my Facebook page probably 10 years ago. Like, have you ever thought about what's on the ketchup packets that you get, that you touch? And you even let your fry touch sometimes, when you're pouring it out of the ketchup packet.
No, they throw them in the bag on top of your fries.
Yeah, but not just that, but just say that they didn't land on top of your fries.
Or you put the pack in your mouth to open it.
Oh, no, I don't do that. But I remember when I posted that on my Facebook page, a guy I went to school with was like, oh my gosh, Lori, you have not changed a bit. So apparently we went to kindergarten together. So I must have been that way in kindergarten too. Like, oh, nasty. Keep your germs to yourself, please. Yeah. So any home you share with anybody, they're going to run inside after sweating all day to grab a cold drink and not wash their hands before touching the refrigerator.
Yeah. I mean, it just boils down to you can't stay away from it. The problem is what you know. Like, she knows it happened. She saw it happened. Before she knew it that it happened, she had no idea. So ignorance was bliss. And it's not to say that he shouldn't be doing it. We're not saying that at all. It's just a matter of putting things in the proper perspective, understanding that it's probably happened before. Even if he doesn't do this, there's still other germs and nastiness floating around everywhere.
But then here's my other question, David. What does she want her husband to do?
Well,
because wait a minute, way too often we hear, all he did was tell him not to do it again. And that's unsatisfactory. So just say her DH said, little Johnny, don't do that again. Then this stepmom could say, all he said was don't do it again. Like, what do you want him to do? Beat him with the whipped cream bottle?
If you want it, you're going to eat all of it right now.
Hold him down and force feed him all the whipped cream and all the air in there.
It's like a friend of mine's parents caught him smoking back when we were teenagers. And they were like, oh, you want to smoke? Let's smoke the entire pack.
Oh, gosh.
And they sit there and like lit it up for him. Here, no, you're going to smoke every one of them.
I bet he puked. And he died of lung cancer the next day. Okay.
No, he's still alive, but he don't smoke.
But seriously, David, you see it all the time. Even if the bio parent addresses the issue, it's not to the satisfaction of the step parent.
It's rarely going to be.
Right. Because bio dad saying, little Johnny, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
The kid's going to do it again, y'all. We know this.
But part of it,
he
too.
He might just be smarter and do it behind her back. And then when she goes to use it, he's like, ha ha, ha ha. I used it anyway.
I think part of it, too, is that some people, I'm like this sometimes, I think you are too. It's like when somebody tells you to do it, it's like, oh, I'm not doing it now.
That's the rebellious part in you.
I know. It's like, I would have said something to him, and now you made this, oh, you need to say something to him. I ain't saying nothing to him now because you told me I had to.
Mm-hmm. Like, no. And you tell me I can't do something, watch, I can.
See, you same way.
I know. You know I'm a rebel child.
Yeah. But that's helped us.
Me being a rebel child?
Yeah. The way you and I both have some rebellious sides to it, and I think a lot of people do, but it has helped us learn how to navigate each other better. Like we understand that there's different ways to communicate that is much better than how we used to know how to do it.
Yep.
And part of that's because we both will rebel against whatever you're trying to force me to do. Or if it even feels like it's being forced.
That's why I was afraid your stepkids was going to tie me up and burn me at the stake, because that's what I would have done to my stepmama if I'd had one.
Yeah. You do see the world through the lens of your own experience for sure.
Yep. I was a bad kid. Good Lord. Okay.
You still ain't changed.
David, I'm not a bad adult. Say it, David. Say it.
You just haven't been to jail yet.
David. All right, David, I have one more.
All right.
How do I handle stepdaughter 11 staying with us all summer without being asked if I'm okay with it? I like my me time when I'm off of work. I don't want to be responsible for another's kid.
Okay.
I got questions, but I can't ask them.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming there's some expectation that you're going to be responsible for somebody else's kid.
Well, I'm assuming, again, we don't have all the answers because we can't ask questions. The way it comes across is that the poster of this question is home without the bio parent being home. So, for instance, if I was writing this, maybe I get home at 3:30 and you get home at 6.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a time frame that I, quote, quote, could feel responsible for this kid. Now, stepdaughter's 11. If she's staying there all day by herself, then there's not a whole lot of responsibility, I would think, prior to dad coming home and dinner, maybe. And I'm saying this from a stepmom's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that it's not the same as being home alone when somebody else is in the house.
Yeah, so I would say, so I understand little Susie's coming for the whole summer. What arrangements are you making to
for her care?
For her care while she's here? And he may say, well, I planned on such and such watching her or whatever. If it's not you, then you certainly don't want to enter into the conversation with the assumption that it is, because then you're going to start a fight for nothing.
Okay. And what if you ask that question and your significant other says, well, you're going to watch her. You'll be here.
Well, yeah, that's when you have to say, well, we need to figure something else out. I'm not an option.
But you're my wife.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be an uncomfortable conversation. So you're going to have to plan for that conversation to where it doesn't get it out of control. So if you're going to, like, for example, you say, well, you're my wife. Yes, I am your wife. But what are the options that we have to provide care for her? Why won't you do it? No. What are the other options that we have? I have work to do, and this is why I say you need to really think about what this conversation might look like before you have it. Having conversations that are crucial like this off the cuff, and when there's a potential for a blow up, is not something you just want to walk into unprepared. And if you do find yourself in that situation unprepared, you can just simply say, I'm not prepared to have this conversation. Can we have it tonight or Saturday or whatever the case might be? And then we can discuss the options that we have and go from there.
Right.
And that way it gives you time to decide how you want to do it. And if you can, don't let emotions enter the conversation at all. And that is very hard to do.
Yeah.
But act like you're having a conversation for somebody else on their behalf. So if I was coming in having a conversation with your significant other on your behalf because I'm representing you, I wouldn't be getting mad at him. I'm like, look, we got to solve this problem. What you want here is not an option. So what are our other options? And it's a very different way to handle it. It's not easy, but it's a different way of handling it. At the end of the day, we need to figure out what the solution is going to be. And I'm a big proponent of grabbing a piece of paper and a pen and let's write them all down. What are all the options that we have? Even if it's bad options, what are all the options we have? All right. Let's check off the list of ones that aren't great options. And then what's left over? Maybe there's 4 different things left over. Okay, of those 4, which of these are reasonable? And then go from there. Now, it's just solving a problem.
Well, and again, with this step kid being 11, I'm assuming they're okay to stay home by themselves during the day while everybody's at work. So yeah, you come home, you wouldn't really be responsible for the kid, but it could be annoying that the kid's asking you questions like, hey, what's for dinner? Oh, that drives me crazy. Or when's my dad going to be home? Or can you watch me play Fortnite or whatever it is? And if that's the case, you can set that boundary with that kid and say, hey, little Susie, when I get home from work, I'm really tired. So I'm just going to go in here and have some alone time for a little while. I need some downtime.
Get a jigsaw puzzle.
You're not being rude, but at the same time, you're setting that boundary of, hey, when I get home from work, I want you to leave me alone, without saying it that way. And and you can't say, oh, honey, you can't have your kid come.
No, that's not an option.
Right.
So another way to look at it is that you're not doing anything for that kid. You're doing this to help your significant other.
Yes.
And so if that mindset shift is what you need to do, believe me, that helps a lot. Then maybe it's not that you're not actually watching them at all. Maybe you are actually watching them, but you've got this mindset shift that you're able to do that says, I'm not doing this for her at all. I'm doing this to help my significant other because he needs it.
Right.
And so it's just for the summer and I'll do it. Or maybe it's every other week or whatever it might be. Because if he comes up and says, I expected you to be able to do it. Well, maybe there's a happy medium. Maybe it's like, well, I can do it every other week or whatever that might look like. You've got to figure that out together.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be that you just end up doing it the whole time and you just go, you know what? I'm doing it for him. I'll just take one for the team. And then we can have this discussion after she's gone about, okay, if she's coming back next year, here's some things I'd like to happen.
Right.
You know, like, can you bring me in on this conversation earlier so I know what to expect? Because it does affect my life. You're changing my life and my day-to-day, everything else. It's not unreasonable for me to say, just let me know. I'm not asking you to ask me if she can come. Just let me know that it's happening.
Right.
Well in advance. And then let's have these conversations to make these decisions about what's going to happen when she gets here well in advance. So we have that all figured out.
Right. You know, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, well, what if dad works second shift? So the 11-year-old's only there by themselves for 2 hours before the step parent comes and the step parent's responsible for dinner and blah, blah, blah. So again, this is why we have so many questions when people ask us a question in the academy, because we need to know the specifics of the dynamic and the specifics of the question that's being asked.
That is correct. So unfortunately, we have to give you the best we got with what we have because there's so many different ways we go with it. I remember not long ago, we were coaching somebody and we were heading down this path. They had a problem with their in-laws and we were going down this whole path. We literally spent, 30 minutes or so talking to this person. And then it was a group coaching call, so it ended. Well, 2 weeks later, we're on the next group coaching call and we're talking to her and she's filling us in about what's going on. Then she tells us something that completely changed the entire dynamic of everything we talked about before. Mm-hmm. So we were like, okay, forget the entire conversation we had because you did not tell us this one thing, which changes everything.
Right. Right. It'd be like, and this is an extreme example, but it would be an example of saying, oh, the step kid goes in there and to the pantry and eats all the candy and they eat all the snack cakes, blah, blah, blah. And then, you try to address that issue. And then the next conversation you find out that the child's diabetic.
Right.
Like, that was important information to know in the beginning.
Yeah.
And no, we're not faulting this person for not telling us everything, but that's why in the academy we get to dig deeper into these things. And that's why it's such a high success rate, because we can have that in detailed discussion.
Right. Well, yeah, my point in bringing that up is just to say that it's a surface level problem, and we're giving you surface level answers here on the podcast.
Yeah.
So, all righty. I think we'll wrap it up here. I think we've solved all the world's problems in 29 minutes. Not. All right, folks, that is our show for today. So join us again next week. And remember, life is good
when you nacho.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Nacho Kids Podcast. Find us online at nachokids.com. Until next time, remember, life is good when you nacho.